I'm Steve Smith. I'm sitting in for Joy Jacobs, who's unable to attend today. I got about a 3-minute warning. I did read the materials twice last night, but I wasn't prepared to be the chair of it. Let's go right on. Would you, James, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Trustee Baker? Trustee Boyd? Trustee Cottle?
Here.
Trustee DeLay?
Here.
Trustee Jacobs? Chair Smith?
Here.
Vice Chair Carboyak? Trustee Wright?
Here.
Trustee Carpenter?
Here.
I would urge you to leave the vote open, knowing that Dr. Baker is in the area.
We'll have to establish a quorum.
Okay. Would you take a look at the minutes, please? And if everybody's happy, the minutes, there's no additions, subtractions, corrections. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes.
We will have to wait until Trustee Baker
Okay.
arrives to move forward on the motion.
Well, in the minutes, Joe, has the naming advisory committee met since the last time?
Well, he's coming now.
Oh, here he comes.
Waiting on you, JB.
Gotcha.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
A second's necessary.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? James, will record reflect that JB is present.
Yes, so Trustee Baker, you're welcome.
Thank you. Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we got the revised budget under tab 2. Alan Thomas, go get them.
Thank you, Chairman. On the agenda today, this is our only action item for the board committee today. The next 2 items are informational regarding some THEC materials, and I'll go over those shortly. So under tab 3, starting on page 11, you'll see information about the October revised budget. It is the second budget of the fiscal year as required by the state and THEC. So this budget includes several items that were not known when we were putting the original budget together back in May of this year. So adjustments to appropriations or tuition revenue, other fee adjustments and revenues. Also, we rebudget some of the balances from the previous year that we did not know in May because we had not closed out the fiscal year, along with encumbrances and rebudgeting scholarships. Also, there's some adjustments made in auxiliary restricted budgets. Those are fairly minor as you look through those, so I won't go through all those pages. But I will refer you to page 18, which is a summary of all the pages prior to that. As you will see, the July budget and the October budget, there are differences between those, between the different categories. But as you'll notice, the ending fund balance on those continues to be around $15 million, and that's required to cover some of the state pension benefit and some other programs that universities and colleges are required to hold to cover those balances there. So you'll notice overall about a $40,000 change in that funding balance. So it is a balanced budget that's before you. The next page, page 19, are projects that have not yet gone to fully approved SBC action yet, so those are still on there. So once a project does go to school bond and is fully approved as the Student Athlete Performance Center, it drops off of here because it's already an approved project. So these are ones that we have not taken yet, and that's required by TBR to review that under the school bond financing authority. So be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
I'd like to get a motion to approve, and then we'll go, I've got a couple of questions.
So moved.
I have a motion by Pete to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I have one on page 14. With enrollment being flat, 22 million more in instruction, can you shed any light on that?
What that column is a combination of of the decrease you see on the page before. If you look on page 13, you'll notice tuition and fee revenue is down 4.3 million. We did have.
Speak up all you can, because I can't hear thunder.
Okay. Excuse me.
Yeah, I say speak up all you can, because I can't hardly hear thunder.
Okay. So on page 13, the tuition and fees, we have reduced that for enrollment. State appropriations, we did increase because of some of the state benefits that we get funding for after the July budget. So those are reflected on the next page in our expense budget. But also what is reflected in there is all the carryover balances that come when you close out one year. We have to rebudget all of those accounts again as if you are going to fully spend. And I'll give you one example, the Meharry funding. You know, we've received $1.1 million, $1.2 million for a couple years. Last year we received $2 million. Most of that funding will not be spent until the students get to Meharry because of their tuition. So that has to be rebudgeted at year end. We're going to have $7 million unspent, but in the next fiscal year, we have to rebudget that as being spent in the following year, because when you submit your budget to the state, you're submitting it as a balanced budget. So.
I'm confused as usual, but you must have lumped a bunch of it into instruction, because instruction went up 22 million.
A lot of that is would be in that case a lot of our course fees that we carry those balances because those cannot go back into the general fund. So a lot of those are in instruction or some and
Okay.
spread out through the others. But you can't put those in just the general fund, so they do have to be specific to.
That number just kind of,
Yep,
Yeah.
right.
the other number that jumps out is a couple of them, but on page 15, other salaries of 24 million, which 23,939 or 24,512. What are other salaries? I mean, what would be included in other salaries? Because 23 million is a big number.
Right. Well, you've
That
got.
would be my salary, and
We may say that's all your salary right there, right? So we have, in that salary line, we have professional salaries first. Those are your, all your faculties and stuff. In the others, you've got graduate assistant salaries.
would you just put those down and send them
Clerical,
out to
we
us?
can,
I don't,
we can.
I'm not
We can give you a breakdown of exactly what's in
Yeah.
there, so.
interesting that health services actually went down in October, not by a lot, but with flu and COVID and all of that was a good surprise.
Well, and that's their expense budget, you know, and they did make some adjustments in their expense budget because last year when we didn't go up on tuition and fees because of the governor's budget, then they had to make adjustments in, you know, we still require them to have a healthy R&R balance for future buildings, equipments and stuff. So they have to adjust their operating budget to be able to fulfill that on a longer term. So that's why you might see some of those smaller balances.
We have a motion second. We have further questions?
Question for you.
Yes.
Alan, you talk about, and I salute you, because it's, for a layman, it's kind of confusing. But the carryover, if you had years where the carryover catches up, let's say the state is not funding as it's been funding, does that create a catch-up year?
The carryover, well, the carryover is specific to various programs. I mean, like the course fee and the Meharry program I just mentioned, encumbrances and all that. So there's several categories there, so you cannot put those in your general fund to play catch-up. So if the funding comes in from the state at less, then we're going to be adjusting the expense budget to balance the budget. So that carryover is what it is, and it has to go back to, you know, if it's the College of Business course fee, it's got to go back into that specific account and be used just for that, because that fee was charged to students for a specific reason. So it's not that we can move those around to balance the budget.
So accrue and carryover. What's the difference?
Well, accrue at year end, we will accrue several expenses that are known, that at June 30 had already happened. So if on our payroll, you know, if we didn't pay, we have a payroll that goes through the middle of the month, but we only pay monthly. So we have to accrue that June 15th to June 30. That does hit the books, so your June 30 balance, that's already taken into account. But then you've got things like the course fee that are going to be used next year to ramp up the fall semester. Those are not accrued and then have to be rebudgeted.
So, Alan, further clarification, I think earmark or already committed funds not used, but it is carried over for the next year to cover what that commitment was. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you can't really say that that's slush money.
Right.
Because
Yes.
that's, yeah.
It is committed, yes, all of that is committed.
Further questions? Comments? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Tab 3, information. You want to hit that a light lick, and I've got a couple of questions on it.
Okay. Tab 3, starting on page 21, 2 actions by THEC, and both of these have already, since these materials come out, THEC's commission has already approved this as presented here. So they make a recommendation on operating appropriations, and then also the tuition and mandatory fee guiding ranges. So as you'll see on page 24, if you'll look for MTSU, you'll see a net increase of $12.3 million, about 9.8% over our 22-23 appropriations. That is based on their request of $150 million to the state. So that we only get that if the $150 million gets in the governor's budget. That would be our portion of that. So that does not include, at this time, any salary recommendation. So if the state comes up with a 3% allocation of salary, then they make those allocations, and then they figure out how much of that, 60% of what that funding is, and they add that in as additional appropriations. So based on that information on page 23, if you look at page 25, you'll see three scenarios. You'll see our increased appropriations in column A, which would be right around 139 million. The 200 million flat tuition scenario is the one that was the governor approved last year and the General Assembly approved. That means we'll fund the whole 200 million with a zero, if you commit to the zero tuition and fee increase. So in that case, we would get about 5 million additional funding if that was the case, to replace any tuition we could go up on.
Any questions for Alan on tab 3?
So Alan, when's the last time the formula calculation was changed?
It was just changed for this time.
Okay.
So,
And before that?
and it's usually on a 5-year cycle.
5-year cycle, okay.
The pandemic
All right.
kind of hit in there, and they made some minor changes over the last 2 years.
Okay.
So the inclination right now is this will probably not be a 5-year, but a 3-year, so they can get back on
I got you.
the 2025 cycle. So, and hit every 5 years. So,
I'd like to point out on 24, is Bill Ketron still here? Well, you don't have these numbers in front of you, Mayor, but we got the lowest percentage change in revenue of any LGI, 9.8. Everybody else was 11, or Austin P was 13%. So it's we've got the lowest tuition, or one of them, and we're not being rewarded at all. I think that's a tool in your tool chest to say, hey, we got the lowest, when we ask for something additional, we got the lowest percent increase of any LGI. And that doesn't seem equitable in my mind. All right, tab 4.
But before you move on to tab 4,
Okay.
I'm glad you raised that point, because we have brought this issue to the attention of TIAC and this board for a number of years. And it's one of the problems with the formula. And in fact, last year, Alan, you wrote a letter on my behalf that we sent to THEC to address this issue. The fact that MTSU has performed so well over the years in those institutions that are trying to catch up, they make their performance kind of outweighs ours because we've done so well. That might not be a good
yes,
explanation, but why don't you explain that to them?
If you just go on graduation rate,
That's-
you know, if we're already in the 50s and approaching 60 during that time, we're inching up, but somebody that was at 25 or 30% goes up 2-3% in a given year, that the money follows that increase, even though that jump wasn't a very, you know, they're still in the 30% graduation
Yeah.
rate.
That letter is very important that Bill Ketchard gets
Yep.
the data from to study, to go forward with.
Yeah.
I guess that's for the next 3-year, but
Right.
we've talked about it. We need to be fully armed to influence the formula.
start now?
Because
Yeah.
we have that, I think we have that ability.
Right,
Problem.
right, yes.
All right, tab 4.
Tab 4, page 27, this is the capital outlay and maintenance funding request for higher education that THEC has submitted to the governor's office. And on page 29, you'll see the capital outlay specific projects that were submitted and put on THEC's list. And there's a total of, I believe, 11 projects and 551 million in capital outlay funding. And as you recall, this board did approve us to recommend to put on our list the additional funding for the applied engineering at 20 million. I think it does help that we also have Austin P doing a similar request there. Theirs is 32 million. And these are projects that were previously approved, and to get over the finish line, we need the additional funding to really make that building be what it needs to be for those academic programs. So all the other projects are new projects being funded, in my opinion, and I don't think I'm getting any vibes just yet, but in years past, when pre-planning money or something was put a year ahead of a project, if you follow that through the years, you usually saw that project come forward the next year with additional funding. This is a little different, but there was funding provided before. We escalated the construction costs probably at 2 and 3% because it was submitted 2-3 years ago. So with the 9, 10, 11% increase we've seen in construction costs, that's what we're asking for. So I think we'll get positive traction with the governor and the General Assembly. On capital maintenance, which is on page 31, we have 7 capital maintenance projects, all the capital maintenance projects that were approved by this board at 15.8 million. 238 million in total. THEC always submits every capital maintenance project to the state, and then the state governor's office, commissioner of F&A, make the determination of how much, how far down the list can they go. So they do that. In addition, this year they have put 2 additional initiatives in for higher education. One is funding for the ADA, and the other one is funding for safety and security. It's been a couple years since we've received any funding probably for either one of those. Total is about 131.5 million for both of those programs. If that were funded, we should receive almost $8 million for ADA and a little bit over $2 million for safety and security.
Alan, remind us when we will know what is funded.
Excuse me.
When will we know what is funded?
That would have to be in the governor's budget. So as soon as it comes out, which is usually late January, 1st of February. And of course, it still has to go through the General Assembly, but I think that first step of getting in the governor's budget is crucial.
So last year, we got $15 million of maintenance. And this year, if we got everything we asked for, what would we get?
15.8. So.
Well, that's good. We did ask for the least amount of any of the schools in.
Well, that is given to us by THEC based on the formula they use and the state is aware of. That's generated by THEC through the formula that Joe Whitefield has spoke to before here. It is, if I remember, I don't have the complete list between the LGIs. Some of that got a little skewed last year because there was some TSU funding that was provided from the backlog into that number, so it raised that number up more than usual. Now, last year we did not get all our projects funded last year. They approved all the capital outlay funding. On capital maintenance, they did only fund, I'm going to say, about 2/3 of the list. Now, our amount could have been close to 13, 15 million, but they didn't approve every project, so.
I guess I was speaking of, and then we'll go on. Page 29, THEC priority, we were 11, but 19 was the lowest number that anybody asked for.
Yes, on capital outlay, yes. Mhm.
Theoretically, I'd like for us to be asked for the most every year, not the least. Because we're not going to get more, we got more than we asked for last year, but we're not going to get more than we asked for most of the time. Is there any other committee business to be held? Ellen, you have any other questions or comments?
No, sir, I do not.
All right,
Thank you.
declare this one closed, and we'll start the next one in 3 minutes. How about that?
All right.